Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to work on NanoBanana. NanoBanana is truly a very powerful tool that allows you to generate high quality photos. Nowadays, for everything related to e-commerce and content creation for social media, using NanoBanana has become essential because it's the best tool Google has put on the market. So what's the idea? I'll show you. Good morning. How can I create a workflow that will automate the creation of Prontes, NanoBananas? That means when I send him images, for example, an image like that one, he will take the image and he will associate the product with that image just by sending a simple prompt. And the system I want to set up will actually help me create photos that I can publish on my website or, of course, on my social networks for a specific product. So imagine an n8n workflow that allows you to automatically generate images. NanoBanana, high resolution, and above all, ones that will adapt to your input photo, that is the photo we send along with the product. So as a result, we won't actually have to manually create the photos generated by NanoBanana and personalize the print. We'll let the workflow itself create specific prints to give me suggestions, photos starting from a simple image, images that we can share. So what I did in this video is show you how I can create it. This workflow from A to Z, it's a very powerful workflow. It simply takes a form as input. And in this form, it will receive images of my product, the character, the mannequin. And in the end, what it will return, it will send me images that will be created with this platform, which is called AtlasCloud. It's a very powerful platform that allows you to use all the APIs available on the market today. So you'll see that we can use Sedans, we can use one, we can use several tools, and the one I'm interested in is this one, the NanoBanana Pro version. So with the NanoBanana Pro system, you have several types of APIs, some that take text, others cards that take images. But for me, what interests me is that we're going to work with the NanoBanana Ultra. That's what matters. That's actually a bit of the specialty of this system because it gives me a very powerful resolution and can even go up to 8K. And that's really impressive. So I'm going to teach you how. So we're working with this tool. How do we set it up? And especially, how can we launch and run the different workflows for various needs? Stay until the end because I'm going to give you, right from the start, the workflow ready to download for free. I'm going to show you how to create this workflow from A to Z, how to fix bugs, how to think things through, how to actually become an automation expert. This is an example that will help you really master this tool. And also, don't forget that with this tutorial, you'll have access to this documentation, a complete documentation where I've included all the plans, all the code, and all the instructions I've used in the system. That way, it will make your learning process easier. With that, thank you very much, and let's get started right away with the installation. The server has started creating the trigger for our workflow step by step. So the first thing we're going to do is I'll simply give you the workflow, so I'll just go ahead and download it myself. And to be able to use it, you simply need to go to this address, so n8n.dorferas.vip. Just use this exact URL, or I'll put the URL in the description below, and you just go here. Click on the link to receive the complete workflow by email. So, for this workflow, once you've received it, you'll simply need an n8n server to be able to import it. And of course, you can follow this entire video without having to download the workflow, if you want to follow along with me as I create it. But for beginners, it's really helpful to receive the workflow. It allows you to test it directly, see the nodes, and copy the nodes if you ever run into difficulties. So the n8n server, you know that we need a server to import the workflow. So in this case, for me, what I recommend to you is the n8n server. You should go for the one-click n8n server. I'll also put the link for that in the description. This allows you to get the KVM2 directly. The KVM2 gives you access to an n8n server, simply with 2 processors and 8 GB of RAM. And most importantly, the number of workflows here is unlimited. So it's a bit different from what you might find with the official n8n server. Because here, of course, it costs a bit more. But there, you can only run 5 workflows, which is really, really little for freelancers and entrepreneurs. So to have an unlimited n8n server, the one from Hostinger is what I recommend to you. You simply need to click here on Select, and you'll see that it will give you access to a server. You can even choose 24 months to get the lowest price. And here's a tip. Select this server and you'll get its workflow included for free in the system. These are the most downloaded workflows in the world. So you should take advantage of it. It's free, You click here, and in the promo code field, you can enter a code provided by Hostinger. This is for beginners who want to create their first workflow. It's go n8n. When you enter this coupon, you click on apply. There, it's still good. You'll get less than 10% off. That's done. So now you just need to click on continue. And you have your n8n server. And I'll show you right now how we're going to create the different nodes and how to create and understand how we're going to work. The workflow, for those who have downloaded the workflow, you can simply come here. And right there in the 3 dots, you have the option called import from file. So for this one, when you select import from file, you'll use the workflow I sent you by email. Otherwise, if you don't want to use it, I'll show you right now how to create this workflow from A to Z, step by step for beginners. All right, let's get started. Here we go. So now we're going to try to create our workflow. We're going to click here on create workflow. And the first thing we're going to do is create what we call the trigger. It's basically the node that will launch the entire workflow. And for us, we're actually interested in setting up a small form, so it's simpler. So I'm going to use the official n8n form, which is a very simple form to set up. And so it's going to play the role of being the workflow trigger. So as a result, if we fill out the form, the entire workflow will be executed. So here we're simply going to configure our form. I'll start by giving this form a name. Here, as always with all nodes, we need to give them meaningful names to make it easier to understand the workflow later on. So here we're just going to call it that. Form trigger 3 images, since we're going to send 3 images. And you'll see that here, when I start creating my workflow, I'll put it in test mode. But I need to finish the entire workflow and activate it for it to be operational. We'll switch to what's called the production link. The production link is simply the specific URL that I'll share with you to collect all the necessary images, and it will be the official permanent URL for my workflow process. This link ensures that data is captured correctly and stored in the right place for our final production phase. But for testing, we'll just stick to the test URL. We'll just stay at this level for now. And now, so we're going to give our form a name. We don't need any specific authentication, so we're not going to create the form with a login and password. We'll leave it public. I'll name it. Uploaded 3 images for analysis. And here, of course, we can add a short description, which is always useful. People who open the workflow will see some descriptions to guide them and help them better understand the information. So, first of all, I need to add some elements. There we go. So remember that we'll need to upload images. That's why here for the type, we're going to select image. That way, if someone tries to upload anything other than an image, it won't be accepted by the system. So, as a result, we're going to call it file because we're going to upload a file. So here for the selection, we set it to file. We're going to write the name of this folder. What should we call it? Image1. So here in the file name, avoid using spaces. And here the label. Actually, this is what users will see. You can write whatever you want here. We'll put it here, image1. But you can download your first image or upload your first image. So it's not multiple files. I want the user to send images one by one. I don't want them to send all the images at once. And here, the extensions. I can define the extensions that I can accept. So afterwards, you can accept PDFs if you want. It's possible, but I'm only allowing images so I can process them later. And right here in this menu, I will enable this specific option and clearly specify that I definitely want this particular input to be a strictly required field for all users. So I'll scroll down a little. Now let's try to add another image because I want to send 2 images, the same thing. So here I'll select file. So here we'll put image 2, same thing here. So the text that will be displayed for users. So image 2 and the same thing then. So here we'll disable the multiple option and also make the information required. This image will be mandatory. Now to finish, I need to add the 3rd image. So file, same thing here. Here I'll put image 3 and here I'll simply set the label the same way. So here I'll name it image 3 And so this would be a required file, and that's it for the extensions. You also have the option actually to add some text if you want. So this lets people, for example, enter data or information if you want to collect it later. So here I'll actually leave it in text mode, and here a label that I'll call, for example, note. This is optional, so it's not required. And here we'll just put it right there. This is if I want to collect specific instructions. So here we'll put optional note. So there I've entered the information. Of course, it's not mandatory. We're not going to make it required. And that's it. So now the system will simply retrieve it. And I'd like to add a little button so I can tell it what to do. There we go. We'll launch the system and we'll call the button bottom label. We'll actually give it a name. So here we'll put analyze image. So here we'll put analyze images. And there we go. The system has just been set up and I can already run the workflow. So now if I go to upload actually 3 images, they will be retrieved. So this workflow here, you just have to click on analyze, and of course you have to upload all 3 images. So now we're going to run our node. We're going to try uploading the 3 images. So here I take a picture of a mannequin, a second picture of my product, and a third picture, still of a product but with a different shot. So now I have 3 images. I click on analyze, so the system tells me it has just sent the images to my workflow. So when I click here, I'll simply find that I have the 3 photos properly uploaded. By the way, I can click on view to see those images. Now what interests me is adding a node called the IF node. This one actually will check. So IF is for conditioning. So here I'm going to tell it, listen, so now what interests me, we'll click here to set up this schema format. So now we're going to test on these images. So it's very important for me that the system will simply check if the binary image doesn't exist. And so if you look here, if I go back to binary, so here the images, so here it's very important then. We have image 1, image 2, and image 3. And I'll start with image 1. I'll simply put the 2 curly braces and then say, does binary.image1, this one, does it not exist? So here we have Boolean, so a Boolean comparison to check if the system has retrieved an image. No matter its size, the most important thing is that it has retrieved an image. So as a result, it's as if I'm testing whether this image doesn't exist. And of course, I'll need to add an AND condition to also check the second one. Image, third image, fourth image. So here, I'll simply look for the image. 2. You have to be very careful with lowercase and uppercase letters. So here, image 2, we wrote it with a capital letter, so it really had to be done that way. No, sorry, so same thing here, I'll make sure it doesn't exist. Nice link exists. And also, so still C1 for a year. As always, these conditions are necessary so that the system must find 3 images actually present for it to work. So it works very well in this state. So I'll put the same thing here. I'll pay attention to the capital letter. And there you go. That's done. About these conditions, I just want to check, does it not exist? So now we've actually done the 3 conditions. And here actually it shows you this error message because sometimes the image, in fact, it doesn't have what's called the Boolean value so that it can make the comparison. That's why here I can click here to actually convert these fields so the system can compare them with Boolean conditions. True or false. So now I can simply run it here, and when I do, it will return. In fact, the 3 photos. That means the system has received all 3 photos perfectly. And if I see that it hasn't found the 3 photos, I can either create an error node. That would be a node where we can send the message. Or I can just let it stop the workflow in case of an error. So ideally, it's always best to send a message to the user to let them know that they didn't succeed or didn't send the information correctly. Look here, this is the false node. This is the path, the false route. That's the one I'm interested in. Here, we're simply going to put edit file. This specific configuration will allow me to properly set up the error notification that I can send out to the system. We're going to send a custom message that is explicitly labeled as an error. And then inside the body of that error message, I can formally ask them to review and approve the images provided. That's it. We're going to ask if they actually want to approve the following images. So that's all there is to it. So the error message, I'm going to send it back. And now my system is ready just in case. In fact, it receives the 3 images, which is our case here. So it's in green. I can actually continue the workflow and set up right now the upload of these images and their processing. All right, so now let's continue. We're going to declare a new node. It's called elite file. So this node actually will allow me to place the 3 images into 3 objects. So these objects, we will analyze them later. So here we're going to name the first object, which is the first image. We'll call it image 0. But of course, you can use any name that makes sense here, so you can use it later on. And be careful, the type is object. And here we'll put curly brace, $binary.image0. So in relation to this first object, which will actually give me this first image. So same thing here, I'm adding image 1, there you go. So here we're going to write image 1 and the same thing here. So we're going to put image 2, which is this one. Be careful. We also need to write our image name in uppercase here, so the system can detect it because it's case sensitive. There you go. And at the end, we're going to put image 3. So here, what are we going to call it? Image 2. Since I can start with 0, but you are free to choose. Be careful, always declare it as an object. We're going to declare it as an object. There you go. Very, very good. So the rest of the workflow, we're going to find out image 0, image 1, image 2, which actually contains all 3 pieces of information. Very good. So here, it's the same thing. I can tell it to actually add other files if I want to add more information. And I shouldn't forget to actually give our node a name as well, that we're going to normalize. In fact, here are the binary images. And by the way, I can simply run it. So the images, actually, they go through at this level. So also the images. Now they're ready to start processing so that I can work with them. So what's my idea? What I actually want is to upload these images to Google Drive. It's very useful to always keep copies, because throughout the workflow, you always had to actually send information to Google Drive, if you want to save them, that is. And I also want to analyze them properly, image by image. For each image, I'm going to use OpenA to analyze it. And it understands the image and what content it contains. So here, we're going to add a JavaScript function that will allow us to send the images one by one. So I'll need to perform 3 operations. So quite simply, here I'm going to look for the word JavaScript, the code. It's this function here. And now we're going to write a function in JavaScript, and this function is simply going to distribute these images for me. By the way, I'm giving a name here to a node. What should we call it? Split images. This will allow us to divide the images into 3. Careful, we're going to write some JavaScript code here. I'm deleting the code and going back to my documentation. Here I've set up a small piece of code that was generated by ChatGPT. This code will retrieve these images and return them one by one. It's as if we had 3 executions. We're going to copy this and simply paste it. So we're going to save it now. I have this function here that will actually send the task 3 times to 3 different nodes. And so now I actually need to call on Google Drive and OpenUI, one that will save to Google Drive. In fact, one will handle the photo and the other will analyze it. So here we're going to add Google Drive. It's simple, just click here and there. My goal is to upload the image, so I'm going to select Upload, then File, and in the Upload File section, you'll see that here first, I need to create what's called my key in this one. What exactly? It's simply a connection between me and Google Drive to give Google Drive access. This is so that connections to my software are actually possible, which in this case, so n8n will have access to write inside it. So to do this, I need to create what's called credentials here and establish the connection between myself and Google Drive. So if you want to connect Google Drive or any other Google product, I've made a video that I'll link here on YouTube. It's a video where I show the entire process for connecting all Google products with n8n. So feel free to click on the video at the top right and follow along with the steps to connect Google products with n8n. And then you can come back to this video if for some reason your Google products aren't already connected properly. So now the input images, here it's not data, so we're going to put it here, image. Of course, we're in the upload operation. Now what I'm going to do here is, what will it tell me? Okay, what file name do you want to use to save it on Google Drive? So in my case, I'm going to ask it to keep the same name as the image. So here, of course, I would use this variable. binary.image.filename. So this variable here will actually retrieve the image's filename variable. And then, of course, it asks me, okay, which folder do you want to upload it to? So I'll select it on the side. We'll put it on my Google Drive. And here it says it can't access my Google Drive. No problem. I click here and then I click a second time there. Because the connection, if you don't use it often, it disconnects automatically. So now I click on sign in with my Google account. And here I'm going to click on continue. Of course, just a reminder, I've already done the setup and the cadences are already created. So I click on continue. And here I actually grant it all the permissions so it can, write to my Google Drive. There, the connection is good. So if I go back here, I click there, it should detect the folder in my Google Drive, and that's exactly what's happening. So we're going to tell it, I created a folder called Video 3, 3D, I think. Let's look for it. Let's just do that. Actually, we're going to set it to this folder, so all the information here will actually be executed there. And so now I save. Of course, I can change the name here if I want, but now we've just installed Google Drive properly. To always test the system properly and not have to keep resending the images every time, if I ever reuse the page, watch what I'm going to do. I can simply put here instead. We're going to take them one by one. For this one, I'll set it to pin so that I can actually lock it and not resend the information. Here as well, we'll set it to pin, so I save. Look, if I refresh the page, the information that was sent here will always be saved. So, of course, I can keep working without having to fill in that information again. And now Google Drive has just been added correctly. What I can also do at the same time, because when I send the image, it's very interesting to think about analyzing the image. That's what we're going to see now, how I use the tool that will analyze this image. And we can run it. Actually, that's not the point. If you want, so here, I just click here and, for example, instead, let's do this. We'll run it. You'll see that it's not there. Actually, it's going to send 3 items, meaning 3 images, 3 links. So you'll see that it's not there. It's going to be executed 3 times. Who's going to send my file to Google Drive? That's very important to me. It's also very interesting to use what we call OpenAI. Here in this model, we'll see the possibility of simply analyzing the image. You'll see that there's image, analyze image. You can type analyze here if you want. It will give me the action node I'm looking for, which is this one. And here, it's going to ask me first to create an OpenAI account. That one is very easy to get. That key, to get it, by the way, you can even click here on documentation. It will show you all the steps. So I just log into the OpenAI platform and then I log in. Personally, I log in with my Gmail. Once you're here, it's simple. You just click on dashboard. And there you'll simply find API keys. So when I go to API keys, I click on create new. And then I actually give a name to the key and click on create. It will give me a code, and that code, I just paste it here and on open here, and just remember to add $2. Actually, that's more than enough to run 100 commands and plans on n8n. So you'll see here in the usage area that you can simply do that. There you go. You can track the number of tokens used, as you can see, but with a really small budget, actually. And thanks to these budgets, I can run this API in a very, very simple way. So you'll also find it in the settings here. The option then to add or purchase. Basically, you can add your card here to use tokens with OpenAI. Now, if I come back here, it's very important to go ahead and do the setup. So the high-level setup is simple. I just have a simple action to ask it for. I asked it here to generate a description of objects, people, actions, products, and colors that actually exist in the image it will receive. And the inputs. It's not going to be a URL, it's going to be a binary file, because this is a file, it's a document. Be careful, the file name is called image. What we call the binary file here isn't actually the name of the image itself, but rather this content that will be placed transformed, and transferred. I'm actually taking the color here. The one that's written in orange, that's the one. There you go. We're just going to write it here. It says image, so I'll put image. Make sure it's in lowercase. You had to respect the case for image, and that's it. I don't have anything else to do, so that's it. The system, it's going to analyze that information and send me back the result. So for me, actually, to execute what I'm going to do properly, because I want it to be executed 3 times, here I'm actually going to group the information and then just go ahead and launch the system. So here we're going to try adding a node called merges, this one. It's going to retrieve both pieces of information, so we're merging. Actually, we're going to combine. We're just going to do it by position, and that's it. We're going to tell it that we're going to receive 2 inputs later. It's very simple. Look at all the information that's going to be executed between these 2 nodes. It's going to be retrieved here. So what I'm going to do is just refresh the page, because actually this node still works, and I come here. I'm going to run it, so I'm checking here just in case. Yes, the model actually here, it's asking me the model to use. There are a lot of models, but the most efficient and also the cheapest one, it's GPT-4o. So here you just simply enter cadeau and we'll search. I typed cadeau, that's the one. It actually does a good job searching for the image. It's a model AI based. That's very interesting. I click on run. You'll see that it's going to keep this information here, but now it's running. There. It's currently saving to my Google Drive, so I check. It tells me upload file. There's a little problem. For images, we'll check it. We'll see why there's this error. So we look here, we check. And actually, I'll take this opportunity to show you how to read it here. If you ever have errors, you'll see here, this is the error code. You'll copy it here, then you'll open ChatGPT and you don't say anything. You just copy and paste and press enter. You'll see that here, ChatGPT will analyze and understand the error. It will give you a clear explanation. Why do we have an error? I really wanted to record this to show you a bit how we make progress when we receive messages, or when we have errors while creating the note. It's very helpful to have ChatGPT with us to analyze, understand, and especially to figure out how to find the solution. If I look a bit at the result, it tells me that somewhere, actually, it doesn't find a binary file called image that was sent. It's as if it's telling me that it's not receiving the information properly. And so here it actually gives me a bit of a process to follow to check the information. So also to strengthen this search, you can take a screenshot of that image. There you go. I take a screenshot. And I come back here, I actually add it. It's a first screenshot that I need to send. Actually, it's a first screenshot. You'll see that it will still trace, track, follow. Actually, the taxes that will be there, it will bring them. So here you have the regular and the pro, and this one is much clearer. And so, as a result, 1 and 2, all right, that's it, which will actually cause the crash. So now we'll try to let it finish so we can analyze it properly. This information for it actually is at an image 0, item 0. The first LIA is really an image, that's correct. But 1 and 2, the other 2 in fact, don't find an image. So actually, what's the explanation? It's that I'm actually going to delete the pin here. There you go, we'll delete the pin here, because at the beginning, when we set it here, we may have only set it for 1. The first image, the second and third weren't taken into account. So we've removed it, I save, I refresh my page, and now let's try to see a piece of music. And here, I'm going to run it again. So now, the system, there you go, it's going to ask me to actually add the 3 images. We'll try to upload 3 images, there you go. So we see the first image, we see the second, and we see the third. Now we run it. And now we come here to execute. So here, the system is unnormalized, as you can see. So now we'll see if the 3 items will be sent. As always, it's item 1 that keeps getting the error. Okay, so the error is actually here. Remember, in fact, that in the image here, for 2 and 3, the I was capitalized. Remember that. So it's normal that it can't find it. So you really have to pay attention to lowercase and uppercase. Right from the start then, in 2 and 3, we wrote it with a capital I. Here, it's with a lowercase letter, so I think now we're going to save it. So what I'll do is simple. We'll reuse the page and let's go. So I'm still keeping this recording. It shows you a bit how it works. This is how we think things through, how we try to follow along. It's very, very important to know how to debug errors. That's actually what allows you to improve, because you try to trace and understand the flow of information, how the information moves. The better you master this flow, the better everything works. So let's go ahead and run it now and see if it works this time. So here, for the first one, I think it really needed to finish and go through here to be sure that the Ultra image has just been processed. There we go, very good. So here we've solved the problem. It's very important to keep track. We found that, as I told you, he told me that the first image went through. The second and third, no. We understood that it comes from here. You see, sometimes you can just reactivate, rerun the workflow, understand and track the errors. That's basically the concept. There, very good. Here, it's currently analyzing and finishing the analysis. And here, in fact, we've retrieved all 3 pieces of information. Thanks to this, actually, the system has just output the 3 pieces of data for me. So what I need to do is simply retrieve these 3 pieces of data here, and I'll just need to prepare a prompt to send to NanoBanana to generate the image for me. So as a result, we'll need to add another node that will gather this information and send it, preparing it to create the prompt for NanoBanana, specifically for the 3 images I sent. So the next step is to create the new node here. And here we go, right here. We're going to do the same thing. We'll actually write a JavaScript function, so it's code, and here we'll just try to simply copy this code here. Actually, I'm just going to retrieve all the image descriptions and all the URLs and then send them directly to my OpenIR here so it can generate a specific prompt for me. So now I copy this, I come back here, I delete and I paste here. Obviously, it's an aggregate description function, so here we're going to group everything together. That's a bit of the difference between this one and the other one we used earlier, which sends 3 times. It's actually the images, that's what we did here. But this time, actually, it's going to group all the information here into a single piece of information, so we don't end up with 3 items each time. Otherwise, it's going to follow us for the rest. If you don't find it, you're going to be executed 3 times. We're not interested in that, so now we're going to run it and see what it actually gives us. So item was 3, now it's 1, and so now we're simply ready to move on to the OpenAI part, which will create a specific printout specially made for me. So for NanoPanella, we're going to create an agent. So here I just type agent AI, and here we're going to tell it, listen, it's not with the chat, we're going to define it here. In fact, all the parameters, there you go. It will need a user printout, so of course we also need to specify that we actually need a specific output. And also we're going to set up here what we call a system message. So here we'll need to fill in 2 important pieces of information for the system to work. A user printout and a system message. And here in the documentation, I've actually put the template here. So user, we're going to copy it here and there we go. We'll put it there. So what are we going to ask for? Of course, it's going to retrieve the description of all the images. In fact, the ones that are here in the node just before. So we've grouped them all together here. So this information here, it's going to go up here, and as a result, we're going to ask it to take all this information into account, here and here. We're going to explain to it, in fact, that we need to create a print for our image, and here are the details. Here I'm going to be given all the details. It's a bit like here. This is what we call the mission, so that it can create for me a specific print that works perfectly with our products. So since it actually understood the image, this is actually a standard print that I added afterwards. It will give you an output indicating that it's a print, so you'll see here, so yes. So of course it asks you to specify the model. Be careful that it's running. I actually need to set up the model here, so the model. We're going to work with OpenAI, so here with OpenAI, there's the 4.1 mini, which is actually efficient, so it's very, very interesting. It's inexpensive, so we actually won't need any other configuration. And also, since we were asked and will need it, I want it to output with a structure that simply gives me print image. So here I come here and we're going to ask it to simply output in this way. Now, it's going to give me a variable called image plants. That's it. So now we're going to try to run it, so it's thinking. It has retrieved all the data, all the descriptions, and it will. There you go, it's giving me the output I was looking for. Here is the output. If image plants, so this is the prompt that works perfectly with NanoBanana. So now our agent has just created our prompt. So this prompt, we're going to run it on NanoBanana. So what's very interesting here is that we'll need a node that calls NanoBanana. And you know that for NanoBanana to use the API, we'll need platforms that give us access to those APIs. So you know, there's the FAL platform, a very well-known platform that allows you to use a lot of different systems. But there are also other platforms that, in terms of cost, are more interesting to work with nowadays. There's this platform that I tested, and it's really very easy to use. And in terms of pricing and token consumption, it's cheaper than FAL. It's AtlasCloud.ai. So here, I created an account and added a few dollars to that account. And in this system, you actually have the possibility to use it. You can take advantage of a huge number of agents. So the usage, you pay according to your usage. So with just $1, you can actually create several images. And here, in fact, it offers a lot of systems. And this is the one we're interested in, right? NanoBananas actually always works with a no banana. Of course, there are several NanoBananas models, each with its own system. The one which only outputs with imprint, meaning text image, there's image to image. So each system, in fact, has its own pricing. There's even the NanoBanana Ultra, but that one works with 8K, which is huge. It's a lot. For example, this system here can't be found on FAL, but I think having an 8K image is a lot. So really, we won't actually need 8K unless we're doing some ultra professional work for other uses. So generally, actually, we use this one. It's the most commonly used. There are even some systems that are actually not expensive at all. Actually, this is the classic NanoBanana. So if what interests me is an image, this is the one we'll create. With 0.112, so for $10, you can go up to 89 creations. If I go to full, I'll see that here. If I simply search for NanoBanana, well, it's this one. There you go. It's the same. So here, the price is higher, so it will actually be much more interesting to stick with, well, this system. So this is actually the system that will cost less, which is with AtlasCloud. So I thought, hey, it would actually be very interesting to just work with AtlasCloud, and that it's going to save us money. In fact, there you go, money. And you'll even see the setup. It's very simple. So once I'm in for a number of years, images of the image, you'll see that here we have a small section called Billy, because actually we can create them ourselves. Here we no longer have to manually add the image by actually taking it. But for us, it's very useful to bring the point from here and the image from there since we've set everything up. So what I'm going to do is show you how we set it up. You'll click here on the API. So here on the API, there are the configurations. So what interests me are these URLs. Actually, it's this one. When we copy this, you'll see we'll come back here, we'll create, so we'll increase the size. So here we're going to add what's called an HTTP request. HTTP request. It's actually a node that allows you to connect to other third-party software. And here you'll go to import here. You click there and do a quick copy-paste. It's just a quick copy-paste of that code, the one we copied here. It's simple, and then we click import. So all the configuration is done correctly. What I need to replace here is a little bit the variable actually of what we call the API. Because the API is very important. You'll see that here, the word BEARER, you shouldn't delete it along with the space. All of that needs to stay. And we're just going to replace actually our key with the key. It's actually quite simple. You'll just come right over here. We're going to go here, click on the API button over there, and then create a new key. So we'll call it CL2, and keep in mind it's just for testing purposes. Afterwards we'll delete it, so it's just a temporary key. We're going to copy this key here. There you go, it's copied properly. I'm coming back here, we're just going to paste the key, but be careful, as you'll see, I leave the space and this word that needs to be there. So now I actually have my whole system, which is configurable, and of course here at the end I can require it. If you want, regarding the response, it's optional, but I recommend that the response be in JSON format. This is just to enforce it a little bit. And here we'll actually need to make a few small updates. First here, I set it to expression mode because I'm going to replace the image and the print in a dynamic way. So here, it put a print here and there, and it only used a single image. But in our case, we have several images and we also have several prints. So what I did in the documentation here is I copied this for you. There you go, to make it simpler. We're going to copy it, delete this, and paste the new one. So here I take the print, and right inside the print I put a little regular expression that will format, well, everything that's vegetables and double quotes and all of that. We're just going to format it so that the text is plain text without line breaks. And just like that, it's clean now, at least as far as the image is concerned. This is where we're going to make a small adjustment, because here actually the image, if it's an image where we're going to send the Google Drive URL, look, here's the Google Drive URL. Here, it actually won't be accepted by the system. So look, here I'm going to paste it, I'm going to click Added. So here it's not going to accept a Google Drive URL, even though that URL does provide the image, but the system, in fact, it doesn't want to get the image in this way. It wants a direct URL, where the image that should appear on the system is located. Look here at the URL. It wants the URL to end with either .png or .jpeg. So what's the solution? We're simply going to upload these images here as well on this tool, which is a free tool on the internet. It allows you to temporarily host the image for a few hours on Tmpfiles. So it's a temporary file host. So we're just going to temporarily upload the images here so that I can actually use them there. So to work on this, it's simple. So to actually update this information, now we're going to come back here to our specific automated workflow, and we're going to try to make a significant change. When we upload the original images directly to Google Drive, we'll also simultaneously upload them to the new temporary server for backup purposes. So that here on NoBanana, we actually send this information with our URL, which is a public URL. And so here, it's simple. We're going to add a new action, a DP request. So we'll come here, and there you go. We'll look to buy cluster parts to make a call to the temporary servers. So here, and of course I've shown you here how to construct this null A. So it's a post method, and we simply need to connect with the API. So with this, here I'm already setting it to post. There you go. So post is the sending method. And here I actually place this URL, and of course I'll need a body here. So to actually send the information in the body. Now the information here is in the n8n binary file format. No, actually here we're going to use form data, that's the one, and that's where we'll select a unit from a binary file. In any case, I've provided the explanations for you here. The configuration to follow is in the documentation. So now we'll need to select the name and the input data file name. Here, the input data file name is this one. So here it's image. So we'll copy that. We'll set it as image. And for the name we're going to give, I'll just call it file simply. And so the return should be in this format, a response. This JSON format. There you go. And actually, we're just going to save it right now. Now, of course, I'll definitely need to put a structural beam right here. So we're going to increase the overall sizes a little bit. Let's set it to 3. So here, we'll just carefully copy it over there and put it exactly here. And that's all we need to do. We're going to name it because we want to actually create the link so that it's simply there. So we'll add a link, creating public links. There you go. So that's what I'd like actually, and run it again. Yes, we can run it again. Actually, that's how it is. It will try to retrieve all this information, and that will be very, very good. In fact, we need to run the workflow again with the newly saved information so that we can see it. So what I'm going to do is click save, and then I'll unlock this node. We'll run it again so that the execution happens properly here 3 times. And then at the merge step, we'll retrieve the new information. We'll also see if we need to update some JavaScript code or not. So now I'm removing the saving of information inside so that we can recreate them again later. So I click save, and actually I'd like to rerun the workflow, and now we're going to try to execute it to see if the information is being processed correctly. Here we're going to have the URLs in a certain way. Actually we have one, and we're going to retrieve the information, so everything will be done here first at this level. From the match, so we're going to run it here, and now it's going to send the information 3 times. Here, here, and there, we're going to retrieve them, and we'll see how we actually find the source of the information. So now it's saving. on Google Drive. Let's increase it a bit. At this point, it actually created the public links instead, and now it's analyzing the image. Now it just finished. Let's try to see together what kind of result we'll get here. So we have for the 3 items then. It's going to extract the text. We also have, so we're going to look for the information. That's on Google Drive. And so here it's also at the level of, well, the same. It's the same thing in Greece here, more or less on Google Drive. And we're searching actually the information that's retrieved with the template. It's this one, so that's the image in fact, so that's what it is. These are pieces of information that actually contain the data for all the images that are hosted, so for each image that was sent here. On the items, we actually have the images. By the way, if I go here into the execution, you'll see in the execution, since it has been executed 3 times now, the system will simply help me. So it will retrieve this data and this information for me. So that I can retrieve them, it's very important for me here in this code, since we wrote code, to actually fetch the information. We're going to update the code so that it also, in fact, will actually return the information regarding the URLs that are public. So quite simply, I asked ChatGPT to update it for me. In fact, it's this JavaScript code, so that this code also returns the public URLs for me. That's it. So that I can use them on NoBanana. All right, so here we're actually going to update this node. I use ChatGPT to actually update our code. And so here it added the public jurors. So I'm going to copy it. So I'll come back here, and just like that, we're simply going to select all of this and paste our new code. So let's see what happens. This code here. So we're going to run this node. So that's done. Now let's look here in the output. It should give me, along with the images. There we go, that's it. Actually, that's it. Actually, here are the new images that my data has been saved. So now I'll need this URL here. So watch closely as I go back here. So now we're going to run the agent, of course. And this is where it comes into play. Here in this part, you'll see that the URL contains the different elements. Actually, it's the Google Drive URL, and that's where we'll need to change them. So let's change them. With what? We're going to go to aggregation here, and you'll see that I'm going to retrieve this. Actually, this data here, so if I go back to the line, that's it. And I need to use the function here, the one that's going to format it. So this, it's actually just a simple formatting using my formatting sub-functions. So as a result, I'm just going to retrieve this. So you see, I just do a quick copy so I don't open it. I take the parenthesis with it, and don't forget to close it at the end. And here I'm going to close it just before. Here we go. And don't forget to close it, otherwise it won't work. You had to close the brackets here, the parenthesis. I check, and I see that here it only sent me a single piece of information. Why? Because, yes. Actually, I need to take this here. I really need to take it. This one contains everything. Let's try a second time so we won't need this anymore. I'm writing here just to read it, you know. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just to read it properly. So I copy this, and at the end I close my parenthesis. That's it. Actually, there you go. That's what I needed. So we're going to copy this, remove the spaces after my code, and I'll come back here. And we're going to paste it. So now I have the URLs. All right, now all that's left to do, all that's left is to execute this node here and see if it's processed correctly. So we've just executed it. So we've run the execution. Here, I'm going to go to Nano here in the history. So now it has just started. Right now it's in created mode, so we'll wait a little bit. It's currently being created. That's why, of course, we'll need to add a wait. So I'm going to add a wait, and we'll leave it for 5 minutes, for example, or maybe 3 minutes. If you want, that's the minimum. Usually it's set to 5, but we can set it to 3. That's the minimum, but we're executing here. So while this one is actually running, we wait for it to finish. Afterwards, I'll show you. Actually, we'll see if everything is fine. We'll simply retrieve it, retrieve the image, so we wait for it to be created. Sometimes you can refresh the page. It takes a little bit of time, and that's completely normal. Actually, so we wait for the status actually, so that afterwards we can retrieve it. So the minimum is 3 minutes, but ideally you set it to 5 like this. That way we're sure the image will be created 100%. So here the execution has finished, but it didn't finish correctly. So here we have failed, and I really wanted to leave this in the recording for a bit to explain to you how we go about debugging, and that's very important. So the error here actually in the system, if I look here at the images that have just been sent, if I take this image for example and try to open it, you'll see it's the same thing. We have an image here. It kind of reminds me of what we get with Google Drive. We have an image, but with the image there's also text, as you can see here, text. So what I would need is to have the image like this right here. So like this link here, because if I take this link, let's copy it like this and open it actually. And now I have the correct image. So if I look at the difference here between this URL and that URL, we can see that here, in fact, it simply added a DL here, you see. So I would also need to ask to improve my code, which is what I did more or less based on what was said. So created with ChatGPT, it simply threw in the function that replaces. And so now we're going to test it. So here, what we're going to do. So here, what I'm going to do, the change will be made at this level. No, rather at the aggregation level. Actually, right here. So this code here, we're going to select it and delete it. There we go. We're going to put in the new code. I'll save when I do it. So all these dates here, we can pin them because they're correct. We actually won't need to run it again. But for this specific one right here, actually, we are going to run it through a second time. So that's been done. So let's try to see if it was actually able to save the new information as we want. So let's try to see how, rather it's in this part here, if here actually, so I'm looking at the tables. So here, let's go back. So it's here. There we go. So now we're going to have this section, public image URL. It's here. There you go. So these 3 pieces of information, they're correct. You see with the download, and so here, this is the right URL and it should work perfectly well. We're going to access it directly. There you go. So here I wanted to show you a bit how we can track things, the flow of information, how it moves, because the flow is actually what helps us pinpoint exactly where we have a problem or not. So as a result, we're going to go up to here and execute. So now it's going to run. It's going to create this and actually wait so that we can, so here, I'll leave it. There you go. It's done. So now if I use the page, I'll find a new request again. There, that's the one. So now we're going to let it run so that afterwards we can test and check if everything is working or not. And there you go. The image has been properly. So as you can see, I now have my avatar actually with this bag, the soul. So the creation has just been successfully completed. What I need to do after the wait, obviously, as we said about the wait, you can set a minimum of 3 minutes, between 3 and 5. That will be good. So all that's left to do is to retrieve it. Actually, for this image, I'm going to use an HTTP request, obviously in get mode. So what I'm going to do here, well, that would be better. Actually, what we're going to do is delete this, or rather, we're going to copy and paste it. So it's like we're duplicating it. So here, the option we'll have is that we're going to retrieve the photo. What should we call it? Download, actually. So we'll call this one first, download. And the method is a get. And quite simply, we're not going to send anything here. But be careful here, we're going to give it the ID of this image, which is this one. That's why in the documentation, you'll find the download section. It's this one right here. I've actually provided you with the correct URL. So all you have to do is come here, delete this, and put in this URL. So the system will actually retrieve the information for me. So the status is completed. And this is the output. So this is actually my image and this is the URL, so it just downloaded it. There you go, that's it. So the image, in fact, so now we've simply managed to download it, so the system up to this point. Actually, these specific null values are primarily used to prepare and then send very specific learning data directly into the system so that all the images are properly saved. So, what I can easily do to finish this entire workflow is simply go right here to save all of the captured information into Google Sheets if I want to do that. So that will definitely be an extremely helpful added benefit for the overall system performance. In fact, it will set everything up, and to do it, it's very simple. So here we're going to type Google Sheets. So here on Google Sheets, we're simply going to search, append the row. So here it will create a new row, that's it. And of course, you always need to have the connection set up. Just like what we did with Google Drive, it's the same thing as what we did before. To connect Google Drive, we can connect Google Sheets, and it would be good to click here to confirm the connection. So now I'm going to click here, and there you go. We've actually reactivated the collection and the system. So now it should actually look for the image. So in my Google Sheets, so here I'm going to look for the image, or rather the file. Actually, I have the apps. 3D video, there you go. And it actually has a sheet called image. And you'll see that so here, quite simply, it's going to retrieve all the columns, but obviously, of course, we're not going to use all those columns. We're just looking to put the information, like here, image 1, 2, 3. So here, let's say a status. We'll call it NanoBanana down, as if it had been created. So here we're going to retrieve some with images. For the images, we'll use images from Google Drive because the other audience, they simply have a lifespan that won't last, so they're not installed all the time. So here on merges, no, actually we'll go to aggregation, that's better, there we go. So this is my image on Google Drive, that's what I'm interested in, so I'll put it like this. This is for number 2 and this is for number 3. The description. I'm going to put all the descriptions for these images here because each of these images had a description. But at the same time, we created a variable that groups together all these descriptions. So we'll put it here and there. If the NanoBanana image, in fact, we just created it, so this NanoBanana image has just been uploaded here. There you go. So that's the final image. That's it. But of course, it would also be very interesting to send this image, to upload this image to Google Drive as well. Why? Because when we put it on Google Drive, because here in the system, it's actually only kept for 7 days. So, as a result, it would be even more interesting to add a step here, look for Google Drive, there, I'm looking for Google Drive, I'm looking for upload, there, that's what I need. Update, wait, I need to do upload, there we go. Still in the same folder, so now we're going to look for our folder. The same folder where we put the information, so in that folder we're going to try to put the image. I can give it a name. Let's go ahead and use the ID. That will be its name. But of course you can customize the name here however you want. And so I just run it. Let's see. Yes, here. Actually, I needed to specify that it's not a file, because right now it's actually trying to find the image as if it should be a binary image. So here it's asking us to send a binary file. So that's not the case. We're just going to add a quick little node here. So this is how we try to better organize things here. So it's simply going to be, so we're going to look for, actually it's just a node that does the HTTP request. That's the one that will handle transforming it. So we'll set the method to get, we'll call it. And there you go, actually retrieve the URL, we'll convert it to binary. And here in the URL field, we'll just look for it. This one, there you go, the output, it's this image right here. There you go, it captures it perfectly. And what we're simply going to ask it is for the response format. So here for the response, we're going to ask it this time to return a file. Because it's thanks to the file actually that we can simply work with it. So now it's going to send it as a file, and so here we'll call it, well, file. Afterwards we'll retrieve it. We'll call it data. Sorry, there you go. We can change this one, but we can just leave it as is. That's the simplest. So you'll see that here it's going to give it to me as binary. That's exactly what I need. Very, very good. Look here, when I open it here, it's going to capture it. So now we're going to run it. You'll see it should normally send it to my Google Drive so it can be saved there. And it's done. So the image, here it is already. We can even see a little preview. More like this, there you go. So now the image is directly on my Google Drive. There you go, I just uploaded it, but it's on my Google Drive. That's what it did, so the system. So as a result, here on this final file, well, it would also be good to rename this one. We'll call it upload URL NanoBanana. And here it's simply the final save. So here, for this image, we're going to delete this and instead save it as an image. That way, we'll have all the information, all the fields. Actually, we won't need these fields, so we can just delete everything. There you go. For now, we'll only need this information. And so, before running it, let's open our Google Sheets file. Here is my Google Sheets file, which contains, so here are a few columns, but up to now, we'll actually just need this part. So normally if I run line 4, as you can see here, it should be filled with the information. So now we're going to click here on run. Let's see, there you go, it just saved. We come back here and there it is, the row. Row 4 has just been added with all the information. So here, this is the starting image with the bag. And so here the system has simply saved all the information for me correctly. And now this is my workflow. This first part has been successfully completed. We can say that my system can handle 10 entries from a simple form with 3 images. It will adapt to take and save everything and return it to me at the end. Accurate information. Of course, I can also add here if I want to send myself a message on my Telegram, or of course even on WhatsApp. That way, I can be notified that the image has just been added if I want to receive what we call notifications, and that's already done up to this point. In fact, we've done what's necessary